Am I nervous? Why should I be nervous? I'm speaking to family and friends right here, right? These are my people. These are the people I work with every day. Dina, thank you for reminding me that I should never be afraid. Never meant to be afraid when we speak with family. The opportunity again is I truly appreciate it. The second chapter, this book, Madison, the battle of the angels now. Oh, by the way, look, Eden Valley from the hill. Isn't that beautiful? And I was inspired truly by this book because when Chanel gave the book about, what, 6 months ago, 7 months ago, whatever time it was, I said, wow, what a photograph. I want to have something like that to remember about Eden Valley. So I went up by the house and I took a photograph and look at it. It's just inspiring to me, very inspiring. So that's what you're looking at right now. Our next uh, point to look at here. Oh, it's not a touch type. Okay, here we go. Go this way. Look at that. Battle of the Angels is our what? Title, right? But as I read it, why are we calling this the Battle of the Angels? I like this particular title or subtitle. How do you face the devil? And you see why that later on. Okay. I like that. Now, I was inspired also by the fact that God never leaves us in the process when we are working for God. Even when the devil shows up, the enemy shows up, you can actually fight back with God on your side. It is just a learning experience for me. Yesterday, Brenda talked briefly about the self supporting ministry and some of the principles that we look at. I will ask you at the end of this presentation, do you see any of these principles being applied as Sutherland and Megan were dealing with the situation at hand? Do you see any of those principles? We get back to that later on. Now, moving forward, if you have a book, how many of you have books? Whoa, very nice. Well, if you don't have a book, you might sit next to somebody with a book and maybe you can follow up a little better. But I am going to begin right now by reading to you the introduction by the writer of this chapter. The introduction said the following. It is in page 21. All right. When Sutherland and Magan made their decision to follow the counsel of God in regard to the farm and the property, their attitude toward the place altered. Ed began to envision it as it could become with God's blessing resting upon it. He began to see its potential and to plan for it. Percy shared his growing enthusiasm. They acted at once. Ed went north to Berrien Springs to raise money for the undertaking, while Percy took the money they have available and went out to make a payment to extend the option. To me, what that really means is that there was no need for any meetings, no more committees. You move. God said move, they move. Okay? And that to me was inspiring as well because now I can see that they were really paying attention and heeding to what Mother White was telling them to do. She got it. So they just moved forward. I like that part. Now, moving forward, I'd like to go, if you have the book, page 21, and take a close look at that later on if you cannot do it right now. But look for commitment there. When they made the decision, look for commitment, look for faith, and look for trust in God. That's it. But they didn't have all the money, but they had that. Very good. I love it. When I see people moving in that direction, that doesn't mean I do, by the way. But when no, I do. When I see people doing what God tells them to do, because I fight back a lot. I be honest with you. I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes God tell me to do something, but I don't know. Show me a little more. Okay. But I like it when people do that. It shows that they are really committed. And I learn from that. Okay, now the battle is on. What's happening here right now is that our dear friend Megan, Megan now has decided that he would be the one with the money. And he was going to go right to the house, the Ferguson farm, and present the money. Now he's confident He's enthusiastic. We already said that. So he goes there, and this is what happened. This is on page 22 to the bottom. He knocked on the door. Knock, knock. You see right there? He knocked. Percy recounted in his mind God's leading in this whole sequence of events. You know the word he's saying, woohoo, I got this. I got it, I got it. Everything is clear. He recalled Mother White's assurance that the Lord had shown her that this neglected barren farm would, under his blessing, his with capital H, his blessing, become a greater center of educational work, a spectacle to the world, to angels, and to men. She had called it a beautiful farm. Percy was happy. He was enjoying every moment of it, right? Now, he knocked on the door. Mr. Ferguson, property owner, opened the door. Well, he said, Professor Magan, I'm afraid all your time or our time has been spent for nothing. Well, why? Well, Miss Sally will not sell. I'm ashamed, but I can't help it. That's Miss Sally. Miss Sally, by the way, is the boss, the wife. She's the boss. We all know that. All right. So what's the matter with Miss Sally? He said. Well, I hate to tell you, the man looked down at his feet. Well, she said that a Yankee shall never own this place. That's the welcoming right there. You cannot own this place because you are from the north. All right. Well, let me see her. Yeah. Now in Puerto Rico was a Yankee, but Connie knows that. In the United States was a Yankee. Let me see her, he said. So Percy stepped inside the room. We made a bargain with you people, and my friend has already gone north to get the purchase money. You don't want to lay yourself liable for a lawsuit, do you? I like what he did right there because I like to fight a little bit. When people say no, you push a little bit and see what happened because after all, God is leading the process, and he knew that he was acting on God's guidance. Honestly, okay. So now I don't think you better see her. He said, the husband said, when Miss Sally gets in a tantrum, she act like the very devil. I didn't say that. He did. All right. That's why I said, wow, what do you do when you face the devil? Right. So moving on along, then he said, well, maybe so, but I talked more than once to a woman who had acted like the devil. Ooh, I don't know. Should you? Well, but anyway, this is real life. Okay, this is not a script for somebody that has not dealt with situations that are negative and difficult. It's real life. This is what we face. All right. So Mr. Ferguson led Percy into the south parlor and told him to wait there. They spent a little time. He went up to talk with the real boss, and then Miss Sally, the husband, began. I want to introduce you after she came down to Professor Magan. She turned on her husband, stamped her foot, and he is, whatever that means, like a snake. Oh yeah, you get out of this room, sir. That's what she told her husband. You get out of this room. He hastened away. Then she turned to Percy, and now, sir, what do you want? Like she didn't know, right? What do you want? Well, Miss Sally, he spoke gently. Grease's kids, right? Okay. Miss Sally, he spoke gently. If you sit down and be quiet for a moment, I'll talk to you. She flopped into a chair. Now, he said, your husband tells me that you don't want to sell the place. You have put us in a hard position because you have agreed to sell. My friend has gone north. I never sell to a Yankee. That's what she said. Oh, and she said that twice, by the way. Okay? Now, Percy again softened his voice. Miss Sally, were you ever a Christian? Huh? Yeah, were you ever a Christian? He didn't know why he asked that question. The words had just come out to him. Have you ever experienced that? You said something that I don't know why I said it, but God said it. So, But that's what happened at this moment. He saw her eyes filled with tears. She burst into sobbing and said, "Oh, I used to be, my father was a Methodist minister, and he brought me up to be a Christian woman. But it seems as though the very devil has gotten into me." Ooh. Your husband told me that, Percy said. "Now listen to me, Miss Sally. If the Lord doesn't want us to have this place, we don't want it. Let's kneel right now and ask the Lord to show us whether this thing is right." I like that. I like that. He went back to the guidance, seeking for the words that should follow. Miss Sally cried and sobbed as though her heart had broken, and they got down on their knees and prayed. I like the prayer. Percy prayed, "Oh Lord, take the devil out of Miss Sally." Now, I don't know whether those were the only words she prayed. I don't know that. But I know that that's they wrote because that's the one that means the most. And what I learned from that at that very moment was that, you know, honestly, honestly, if you're going to pray, pray for whatever it really is. I mean, a lot of good prayers are good, praising the Lord. Yeah, but what are you saying? Yeah, go right. So he went right to the source. Take that devil out of her. All right. "Oh Lord, I know there is a devil in me," she said. "Oh, I know, Lord. Lord, I know there is a devil in me, and I want you to cast him out." That's also a good sign. All right, but it's not the end of the story. Now, Percy went to work on the contract because they sort of agreed that they will move on with that. So Percy went to work on the contract. A few hours passed on by. He worked on the deal, things like that. The man went upstairs. Once he has finished, he told Mr. Ferguson, "Now we are ready to talk." All right. So Mr. Ferguson went upstairs and Percy waited for about half an hour. That's a bad sign. Something happened here. The devil might be back. You know. Finally, Mr. Ferguson came back. "Professor," he said, "it's all off again. She's acting like the devil is backing her. Her daughters are up there beseeching her, but it's no use." "Well," Percy said, "get her down here again." "No, it's no use." "Yes, it is some use," Percy said, "because we are going to have this farm." "How can you be sure of that?" "You won't understand if I told you, but I know it. Now get her down here." About half an hour later, she came down and they sat on the porch and talked about back and forth, blah, blah, blah. She told Percy how she hated the Yankees again. That's, that's a stumbling block right there. Hate is not a good thing, right? Hate, even on the business deal. If you're going to do a business with somebody, do it out of honesty, sincerity, and even love for that matter. But when you got hate into it, it doesn't work so well. So that's what they are right now. But it's going to change, praise the Lord, right? It's going to change. The good mood induced by the prayers had vanished. No more of that. "I will keep coming back now. I'm coming back," he said, "until we get the farm." So he's not giving up, all right? He had an idea. He had an idea that one purpose of Miss Sally's tantrum was to what? What do you think it is? Get a little more money. She maybe so, maybe so. There is probably both of them. All right. Now that night he telegraphed Sutherland because he went up north and told him about the situation, and they evidently have to pay more money. So he asked him, Sutherland, to bring Mother Drula. Mother Drula. Let me tell you about Mother Drula here quickly. Yeah, enters Mother Drula. You can read more about her. I'm not going to tell you much, but you can read more about her on page 26, paragraph 1, because they describe her as being shrewd. You need that in the business. You have to be shrewd, but honestly shrewd, right? Okay, we're not going to. No, we're going to be, But anyway, he said that she was a shrewd financial head, the shrewdest financial head in the denomination. Do you know anybody shrewd? That doesn't mean the person is bad. It means that this person is looking at many details, looking into everything, and that's what she was. Every denomination, everybody needs somebody like that. When somebody bring a deal, "Oh, we're gonna, oh, yeah, I'm excited, yeah, yeah, yeah." All right, let's put it black and white here. Let's see what the money coming from. All of these things. Yet in the process, we trust God. But God still wants us to be what? Yeah, we want to be wise about things, whatever we do. All right, so Mother Drular was indeed that person that they needed to be able to close these deals. All right, all we need somebody like that. Now, she basically said it looks unstable to me. She said, and risky. How is it that you change your idea about buying a small farm? She questioned that. Now, here you come with a $12,000 proposition. Now, in 1904, $12,000, you had to do some money. I mean, you had to do some work. Yeah. That's just the start, Mother D said. Then you will need money for equipment, fixing things up, making things ready. So it will be even more than that. Well, they talk about it and things move along rather well. And then this happened. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Mother White. You see, the story goes like this. They went back and forth, making offers, things like that. At some point on page 27, paragraph 2, it said that by this time, Mother White, Elder Butler, Elder Haskell, and his wife, Sarah McEnterfer, Chrysler, and Percy Megan now, they went to the train station to meet Sutherland and all the group together now. Megan grabbed Sutherland's hand as he arrived to Nashville, and he said, the jig is up. The old lady, talking about Miss Sally, the old lady has broken her contract. She wants $1,000 more. And of course, we got the shrewdest financial person in the world, Miss Druller, and she said, ha, ha, ha. Well, she only said one ha, but ha, Mother D exclaimed, I'm glad we are not going to take it. This is what happened. This Mother White eye sparkled. Glad, she said. Glad? Do you think I let the devil beat me out of a place for $1,000? Pay the extra 1,000. It's cheap enough. This is the place the Lord said you should have. She's committed. She's following God's leadership, and that's it. It costs a little more, but God has a bigger plan. We make decisions, God marked the steps. Now, that's my own way, but Proverbs 16:9, one of my favorites ever. All right? Then, after she said that, she turned to Mr. D, to Mother D. This is Mother White speaking. You think that you are almost old enough to retire, but if you will cast in your lot with this work, if you will look after these boys and guide them and support them in what the Lord wants them to do, then the Lord will renew your youth and you will do more in the future than you have ever done in the past. Now, when I read that, I felt really good. No, no, yeah, really. Hey, I'm 77. If somebody will give me a few more years, I do that. And I think she was really. You imagine those words coming out of her at that time. It's God speaking through her. Really, it is. It's the only way. What an amazing story. The whole party drove to the old frame house uh, where Mother White was staying, while the others prayed. Megan, Sutherland, and Mother D drove the 9 miles to the farm to call on the Fergusons. They were ushered into the parlor and seated. Do you want this place? Miss Sally said as she came into the parlor. Of course we want it, Megan told her. We have decided to take up that option. In other words, they're going to come up with $1,000 more. She shook her head. Don't know whether I'll sign it or not, but if I were in Nashville, I might. I think what happened, she wanted to go to Nashville. She wanted, and she implied that, hey, if I am in Nashville, maybe if you take me to Nashville, I signed the paper, the contract. So that's my own opinion, but there must be something here. But anyway, they went on to Nashville at that time, all of them, and they went into the notary public to sign papers. There you find something interesting on the middle of page 28. Under Tennessee law, a married woman can break the word and be free of any obligation. A married woman can do that. Beep. Okay. If a deed or contract of sale is signed by both the husband and the wife, the woman must go into a room with the notary with none of her kin present and sign an oath saying that she has not been coerced. Now, these are things that happen. That would never happen today. Why would a woman do that today? But this is 1904, right? But that's the truth. That's what they are dealing with. There are many stumbling blocks in their way. All right? It's not just that simple. But after this, I will never sign that, she said. I'm not doing this thing freely, she said. She bit her lip and turned pale. That Yankee, she said. Well, actually, she muttered. That's not muttering. I was screaming. But I think she said more like, the Yankee. Okay, so her husband came into the room like this. Oh, Sally, he shook his fist. Quit that. He told her. He put on his coveralls, and he said, quit that. They got to pay me in gold, she said. Their check is as good as gold, he said. Finally, she turned to the notary. Okay, I scribed to the old sir. Give me the pen. She took the pen and scribbled her name. Bottom line is that at this time they handed her $5,000. Now, in case I don't want to tell you a story is not true. Okay, $5,000 in 1904, $178,000 today. That's a lot of money. Of course, you are buying 400 acres of land, and apparently it was worthy of it, so that's their decision. But anyway, it was a lot of money. It was a lot of money. All right. After this take place, she said, well, Brother Sutherland, she gave them her warmest smile. They accomplished the task. You boys will never know how many angels work to help you get here. And there were a lot of people behind the scene. Obviously, God is making things happen. All right, you never know how many people, how many angels work to get here. Now, on page 29, the first sentence. Let me begin on page 28. Percy Magan felt a thrill of joy run through him. Like Daniel, he had entreated the Lord, and the angels have fought for him, even as they fought with him, with the prince of Persia. In other words, God intervened on their behalf. Edward Sutherland, in that fall of 1904, faced the greatest challenge of his life: the commitment to establish, equip, and bring to success on the barren acres of the Ferguson farm a training school to meet the needs of the South. He had reached his 39 year. It's a young pop, really. Next to me, I don't know anybody 39 years old. I don't know, but all my friends are really old. Well, I don't mean any harm, but but 39 years is young. Honestly, it's a lot to be learning 39 years still. All right. And that was, to him, I imagine, was really exciting as well. All right. We do not, and further down, it said, we do not have faith. That's why Sutherland, told his friend Percy, we do not have faith unless we do believe in something that does seem out of reach of the human mind. All right. And that's just an amazing statement as well. And this proposition is just a thing. This proposition is just a thing. It's just such a thing. Percy Magan stood beside him. They had come out again to look at the land with their eyes made keen by ownership and responsibility. And this is really huge. When we take ownership of something and we assume responsibility, everything must change. Everything must change. All right? And so we are learning and really picking up some hints here that on this type of ministries, like, and I'm not an expert at this. I'm just a brand new, I'm a 15-year-old when it comes to this type of ministry. But I can see that you must own and you be a good steward of whatever is in front of you. You have to. The day I walked by and I didn't pick up that trash, and the day I said, well, that's enough, that's good enough. It's hurt to know that I'm not really taking responsibility and ownership of things like that institute like this one here. I read the last on the last page 30, the last two paragraphs. Sister White, now this is without waiting for the reply, she hurried on, her face lit with radiance that shone from within. Sister White told me that if I will give my time, now this is Drula speaking, if I give my time, my talent, and my means to help establish a school here, God will give me the privilege of doing so, and I shall live to see the work as it says. Ed also spoke. To believe things that are perfectly reasonable requires no faith. His calculating scrutiny took in the whole 400 acres of the newly acquired land. I don't know why we should not expect God to work miracles now, just as He did when He turned water into wine and opened the Red Sea. I tell you, I'm just so amazed by this story. It's really exciting to be part of it. Thank you for allowing me to share. Thank you for putting up with my something. I'm a little crazy sometimes. Don't tell anybody. But I get into these things because I learned from Brenda actually that when we read from the word or things that are supportive of the word, we need to get in it. Yeah, yeah, and you whoo, and you feel really good. Anyway, may the Lord bless you. Oh, one question: do you see any of those principles in the story? I hope you do. You don't have to answer now, but I hope you do. God bless you. Thank you very much. Okay. All right. Oh, let me give this back to you.
God has been so good and been able.
Backstory to this, the Sutherland and McGann. Before they came down to Tennessee to start the beautiful farm, they were up in Michigan and they were reformers. Now, do you know the difference between a reformer, between Reformation and revival? Revival is inward, like when you love God more. But reformation is when you change something outward, like your hairstyle or in or your whatever it is you think needs to be changed in order to please God more. That's reformation. Well, these two men, Sutherland and McGann, were such reformers up in Michigan that they lost their jobs there. In other words, they decided, well, we're not going to have any more sports. So they plowed up the football field and made it into a farm. And they said, our students need to be prepared for missionary work, so we're not going to heat the buildings. We're going to leave them unheated. And we're not going to have any degrees. Nobody's going to get an MDiv degree. Nobody's going to get a BA. We're going to abolish all the degrees. We're going to plow up the football field. And we're not going to heat the buildings so you can get toughened up for missionary work. Toughened up, toughened up. So with that much reformation, could you say that they were erring on the side of the people or on the side of the reform? Which would it be? They were erring on the side of the reform, but not erring on the side of the people. So they got fired up in Michigan, and then they came down and started again in Tennessee. So in the chapter that I was assigned, you read about how Sutherland came to McGann and wanted him to play on the softball team. But he said, no, I don't believe in sports. I prefer to do something to help people with my exercise. Now, years ago, Mark Finley, the dean of Seventh-day Adventist Evangelists, was being mentored at our sister institution in Georgia named Wildwood. He was being mentored there by Elder Frazee. And it was understood that Mark Finley enjoyed an occasional game of golf. And somewhere along the line, Elder Frizzy said, now, folks, I would never criticize anybody for playing golf because undoubtedly, while they're playing golf, they're doing something much better than they would have been doing if they would have had another choice, like playing billiards or something like that. But Elder Frizzy went on to say, but if you prefer to work in your garden and call that your recreation, then enjoy your recreation. But don't criticize the man who isn't, this is in parentheses, who isn't at the same level you're at. He's still enjoying a little bit of golf. So, um, I open it up to you now. Do you like to err on the side of the people, or are you going to plow forward into a higher realm, if we could call it that? Or would it be higher? Years ago, here at Eden Valley, one of our therapists wanted to challenge our president at the time, Frank Fournier, to a 1 mile race. So Dr. Cherney, who was our medical doctor at that time, was the scorekeeper. And they started those two on the race. Years ago, we also had some soccer games on the field in front of the village here. And to this day, a number of our people enjoy sports at some level. So, all I can say is that Sutherland and McGann, although from reading chapter 3, you notice he had quite a good life growing up. I mean, he never did anything wrong. The only thing he ever did wrong was disagree with his father about whether or not he should be a farmer or a teacher. It's about the only thing he ever pushed back on. But the rest of us might not quite be there. So, what we have here in the book, Madison, God's Beautiful Farm, is somewhat of what's called a hagiography. In other words, the superstars of the story, namely Sutherland and McGann, come off smelling like a rose almost in every situation. But I told you a little bit of the backstory so you'd know that they also had some bumps in the road up in Michigan when they plowed up the field, abolished the degrees, unheated the. I don't think we did by with that here, unheating the rooms here. This room here is even there's some heat in this room, I think, So anyway, I guess what I'm saying is if you yourself enjoy a gentle walk in the hills instead of a more competitive sport, then God bless you for that. But if you see somebody out there who is still maybe not there yet, they're still enjoying maybe even they perish the thought, maybe they even watched the Super Bowl. So we're all at different levels. And that concludes my talk on sports and competition, unless we have somebody as a star witness who knows something about sports to add to that. Talk to me afterwards if you feel like I gave it wrong. But there you have it. God bless you.
Thank you, John. As spontaneous as that, no one else will give it to you. All right. Well, that's a beautiful recap there on chapter 3. And of course, John went into the history. If we're going to think about the historical sketch for a while, then we perhaps should also think on what they were dealing with in the north and the council that came to them. So they didn't act on their own, just for some historical sketch here, John. There was a crisis going on in our church at that time. So think about this as we close. Um, Ellen White, for a time, was in Australia. Some of the things that God was revealing, the leaders of the church didn't like it. So keep this in mind. The leaders of the church were not excited about some things that God was leading his people to do. And eventually, actually, she was ushered to Australia. Oh, yeah, think about it and read the history. She was actually ushered to Australia. It's almost saying, we need you off our backs. And so while she was in Australia and God was revealing many things, she kept in communication with the two young men, as John mentioned, and many things that God wanted them to understand, and the true principles of education on the work. As John says, sometimes you can move into a reform that becomes a deform. Sometimes you can be too stern that you're not on the side of God. So there's this balance that should be there, right? That you can get too stern, you can get so caught up into something and you zoom into it and you see nothing else. And so, and the other side of the coin is the same, that we can also be so liberal, we can also be so, what does it matter? Why principles? So let's consider these things. There's a balance that God is calling us for. And so, as we close this morning, think about the idea of being balanced, of seeking the Lord at the same time we be gentle with each other, as John mentioned. Because I may have studied and have a conviction, it doesn't mean that my conviction is the other person's conviction. Now, that's a general statement. As it relates to the principles of God, we are all having our personal walk with Him. Each of us are having our personal walk. I shouldn't push anything on anyone, vice versa. So, personal convictions should never be pushed on another person. Now, principles, fundamental principles, can be taught, and each man makes his decision. So it is very important as we look through this beautiful journey, as we're going through the book, we understand the fundamental principles. And for especially as John commented on this idea of sports and competition and getting, someone may feel it, okay, it's just for an afternoon kicking around. In fact, actually, for emphasis, there is a quotation. Ellen White even made clear comments on this as it relates to the kicking up, playing of a ball and enjoying a few moments. And in the family, she talks about that. That's a big difference from being involved in a deep competition that you are involved and you are in this competition and actually destroying your health and perhaps another person's health. So, as you listen, as you look at these things, you think about it, and the last question or the big question you ask, you just spend some time with God. As Brenda said yesterday, first things first, right? That time with God. God, I'm in heaven. The spirit of competition, is that what you would have us to do? So, let's pray. We thank you, Lord, because you've given us the principles of your word. And as we read your word, we see very clearly, let each esteem other higher and better than himself. And let there be no strifing, the spirit of strife. Who is the greatest? All these, so many verses in the Bible that teaches us principles from heaven. And I pray, Lord, thank you that you have given us these principles. And as we look through the book, we're able to just go through and see and go back to the Bible to see what God would have us to do and to be in these last days. You're coming very soon. And we thank you that we can be prepared for your coming. Lord, teach us now how to have a nice, gentle, personal relationship with you and love the brethren. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. God bless you. Have a beautiful day. Tomorrow morning, we'll continue.